your hands, wave your hands, wave your hands, wave your hands. Come on, come on, come on. I know you're sleeping now. You gotta wake up some more, yeah? Okay, let's go. The people who us, the people lie to us, the government betray us, so much. I said they lie. The people who us, the people lie to us, the government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not come. I said we tired with their lies. We tired with their promises that led us to a lot of damages. We tired with their speech they preach indeed, and now unique they deceive us. The thing we saw, it frustrates us. So why can't you lie? Why can't you steal? Why can't you allow the citizens to be? You see, we just tell you that why we voted you. But you screw us. You screw us, you use us and later on abuse us. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm looking.
The man ain't like that opening song. The man
No, it's not that I don't like it. I just don't like it for a long time. That's all. 1 minute,
okay.
1 minute on radio. It's a nice song, but 1 minute on radio is a long time.
Yeah. Good afternoon, man. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm
Right.
doing good. I'm
Well,
looking.
we want to say good afternoon to the listening audience. We excited you guys are joining us again as usual. Whatever you can, share it. Let other people drop in, provide an input, add to the engagement, and we share the knowledge. So George, this week being an exchange between two presidential candidates. Before we try to delve in low level, what are your general thoughts on what has transpired so far between the two folks?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Cummings' letter was on point. I don't give too much credence to Weah's letter because I believe that Weah is unlettered and therefore could not have written this letter.
You see, you spot the whole conversation from the beginning, my man.
So you see, I got all the letter business in the whole thing. Okay.
But Weah got you say he's on letter, but he got some letters at the end of his name, though, right?
Let me tell you something. Yeah, he can be. You can have all of those things, honorary degrees. What people don't know, they don't count. Jefferson Koji just got an honorary degree a couple of weeks ago, so we can deal with that.
So I mean, so you don't feel that we are addressed the issues raised?
I mean, listen, what we could have done very easily was to say, we take this seriously. Even if he was trying to delay for time, to say something like, we've asked for more information, but I'm sure that information has been communicated to them. That's the problem. Okay.
Yeah.
So this letter is just a bunch of noise.
I mean, Mr. Cummings primarily raised 3 points.
But it struck me
Uh-huh.
very similar to a letter that Mr. Tubman wrote to D-Tware.
To D-Tware. So
yeah.
that's new to our people, right? So I don't know if you can find a copy of the Tubman letter. It would be interesting.
Oh
because
man, I can see, it's in Tuanre's book. Which brings me to another point. one of the things I've been trying to do, since most of these books are out of copyright, is to get these books, publish them on Amazon, and give the person's family the rights to, the financial rights to the book. Because other than that, all of those books will be lost.
Well, are you assuming that there are no rights to those books already?
The books don't exist on Amazon. So you take Tuanre's book, it doesn't exist on Amazon. And the few people who have copies would need to relinquish a copy so we can scan it, convert it to text, publish it on Amazon, and sell it for $3, $4, $5.
It will make a difference for the family.
But not just make a difference for the family, it preserves the book in perpetuity. Because once it's in electronic format, it's in electronic format.
I mean, that's not a bad idea though. So if it's an
so while you at it, your classmate, let me raise my desk here. Your classmate, Tuan Seyon, his father has written a book, has a book.
Okay.
That would be good to publish.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I've reached out to him, but if you could reach out to him and explain to him again what it is I would like to do.
And he's an educator. He should know that too.
Right. So, this is one of the challenges of all of the prior Liberian writings, that they don't exist anywhere other than in hard copy, or you got to go to the Library of Congress, and that will not allow, where they would not allow you, to tear the book apart and scan it.
Yeah. So we need original copy from somewhere.
We need original copy. We need to remove the binding, scan it, convert it to text, and publish it.
And it even you do a limited publishing of hard copies. People could.
No, I'm not publishing anything in hard copy ever.
Why?
Ever? Because Isaac, put it to you this way: if your book doesn't exist as an ebook, I'm not interested in it. I'm literally not interested in it.
Some people want a physical thing for the desktop.
Here's the problem with the physical.
Shelves.
You can't publish a physical book for $5. You have to pay shipping costs. You have to pay the person who's producing the book. You follow what I'm saying?
It's expensive.
It's expensive. Yeah. The other thing is you can still take these books, convert them to audiobooks, and people would pay extra for the audiobooks. But anyway,
okay, so let's get back to it. I don't know if you can find it. If you can find it, just give us a synopsis.
I'm looking for it right now. Hold on.
Okay. So I think most Liberians know who Tuan Ure was. The first one was gangster. So you're trying to imply that we won't be gangster, too?
Hold on. I may have seen it here.
So that's an interesting perspective George is coming from. And it's always important that we can look back in history. That's why documentation and keeping records of stuff is always important, because you always want to go back, reflect on some things that kind of mirror, approximate, or imitate stuff that happened before. And then it gives you a better perspective how the population then related to this information that coming current to today. I don't think I've seen where George is talking about, but I know a lot of people are also talking about the connection between this letter from Mr. Cummings to Mr. Weah and Mr. Weah's response being similar also to an exchange with Aberport. But now Aberport was known for multiple exchanges with President Tubman. So,
and it might be Aberport. It might be Aberport. if you now that you mention him, it might be him.
I think it's Aberport. Aberport was, you know, he was really an advocate, and that's sometimes you got to draw the distinction between the roles of those individuals. Mr. Aberport was not a presidential candidate. Mr. Aberport has some ideas, but I don't think he was presenting a holistic vision for the redevelopment of Liberia or for the forward march of Liberia. He was more concerned with all the negatives of the day, you know, the disadvantages that were happening within the body politics of Liberia at the time. So he was trying to address those issues. He was trying to, I believe the letter, if I remember the content right, it was about $150,000, and at that time it was significant money,
right,
being used not for a yacht, but to put it towards, you know, better development purposes that can impact.
That's exactly right.
So then it was Aberport.
It was Aberport.
Yes,
it was Aberport. My mistake.
So right. You know, at Tubman just came back and firing. So it's not that far in terms of the context. But you know, Mr. Cummings' letter, I thought, to George Weah was more of a patriot, you know, trying to share with you 3 of the key issues that exist in the country today. You know, obviously, in my mind, this government is not taking the sanctions as seriously as it should, and that rests on Mr. Weah. He claimed they want to go through the due process, and so he justifying his suspension. But what else has he done? Is there an independent commission? Has LACC or Ministry of Justice been instructed to investigate this? Like you said, you believe, I believe, many people believe that the dossier related to this was probably presented to the government by OFAC or probably by the American ambassador who did a presentation on behalf of the United States government. So
the Magnitsky Act is not a joke. Okay, this is something that is applied to individuals all over the world.
Right.
Okay, and this would not be something that the U.S. government would do lightly.
Right, and
it just wouldn't be.
And this is an interagency effort. It requires a lot of resources to do this stuff.
They would do it with documentation, because don't forget, they have to also deal with financial institutions,
right,
under this act. Okay, so for Mr. Weah to pretend like, oh, you know, this is the first I heard of it, and we're investigating, it's not true. So I would like somebody to ask Mr. Weah, when was the first time anybody expressed concerns to him about those individuals? You understand what I'm saying? Because put it to you this way, you can't claim you have a special relationship with the Americans and they are your most beneficial partner.
Right.
And they just sprung this on you in the middle of the night.
Exactly. Where the friendship at, where the warning at, where the relationship, where the advice, where are all of those things?
Correct.
So that's why, you know, Mr. Weah does not come across as credible in this particular situation. And you can understand it, you know, for somebody who is silent. Basically, he only uses primarily the pulpit at Foke Clone Church to stroke jabs at people, or, you know, other places where he's invited, where he's on.
Mr. Weah doesn't comment. You see, one of the issues that I have with you, Isaac, is your ability to kind of compartmentalize all of your discussions. You said Mr. Weah doesn't come across as credible in this instance.
Mr. Weah doesn't come. He tell you good morning, morning time. Not credible.
It's not credible. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. It is not credible.
So okay? Mr. Weah has
going to check. Okay, I'm going to check.
With you. So even if you're in Arizona, you look at your watch.
I would check my watch. I would check my iPhone. I would check my computer to make sure that
But
is mourning where I am and mourning where he is.
You're not alone in that. Mr. We
Okay?
have lost a
No.
lot of credibility with people if he had any before.
The
Because some
credibility
people,
of the president is the same as the credibility of his government.
and that's
Okay?
what he doesn't understand.
If your government is not credible, it's a reflection of you.
Right.
Okay? You can't ask people to trust you and say, but you know, you don't trust my government. Because everybody in that government serves at your pleasure.
Right. In the executive branch, they do.
Yes.
They do.
And that is, well, it's not just the executive branch.
No, well, the judiciary too, because he appoints them.
Yes.
But I'm saying the legislatures, they get elected. So you can say,
Okay, fine. But
yeah.
so that's 2/3 of the government.
Right.
So, you know, when we talk about Mr. Weah's credibility, I mean, look at the recent situation with this dude from IRA, Carney.
No, not RIA, RIA.
No, I said RIA.
Yeah, the one who appointed to the airport.
To the airport. Look at the situation with him.
But you see, that's the part. It seemed like Adam Mr. Weah is overly full of himself. Like if he can be wrong, because you get these nominees, there's a furor about them that's valid, and you still don't withdraw the nomination.
But not only that,
the
guy presented a different CV from what the mansion posted on its website.
Right. And he basically implied like maybe the Weah government or whoever in the office manipulated.
They lied.
Yes, that's what he was trying to say.
They lied.
But you know, it's just an amazing thing that at this point, I don't know if you saw the other letter from Rustolin Swakoko, who sent an open letter to Mr. Cummings, kind of asking him to sort of ignore Weah, you know, and you being somebody who knows the Bible, but not necessarily.
Give me the link. Let me read it real quick.
It
won't take me that long.
I sent it to you earlier.
Okay, hold on.
I sent it to you earlier. You know, so for you know, I don't know if we need to share the two letters plus Rustolin, but basically for the people out there, she's trying to say, she makes a comparison, biblical comparison from Matthew 7:6 that says, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you." That means kind of tear you apart. But essentially what she's saying is Mr. Cummings had dropped some nuggets, some knowledge at Mr. Weah, you know, but unfortunately, he has not taken it as that. And he will probably never take it as that. So basically, she's saying Mr. Cummings. And she did mention, yes, this also reminds me of the scenario between Albert Poe and President William V.S. Tubman on August 25th, 1951, where Poe tried to advise the president at the time not to venture into luxury by purchasing a yacht for $150,000 at that time. Rather, the president should invest into infrastructure, that which we are lacking today. It turned out into personal attacks and vulgarity from the president. So, you know, again, I know you say we are not letter, but that letter is kind of symbolic of his reaction to advice and input from others. The reality of this is she basically saying Mr. Cummings should not bother. I mean, I hold a different position from that, you know. Sometimes you have to communicate back to people what the real truths are, what your position is, and the false justification they have for this stealing that's going on, this impunity that's going on, is not justified for the Liberian people, you know. So I don't know if you have opened the letter yet, you have read it, or whether you want to make comment. But my comment on her letter, yes.
No, put the link in there for me again. Put her link in there for me again.
Oh, really?
I don't see it.
Wow. It's right under the link for the show.
Okay.
Do you see it now?
Yeah, I see it. I'm opening up.
Yeah,
It up
wonderful.
on Facebook. Okay, Facebook.
So I mean, she believed that nobody but the like diehard kind of cultists or the people who just believe nothing can go wrong or nothing is wrong, everything is great in this country. She said those are the only people who would believe anything about we are at this point. She says the Liberian people know that President George Weah can't govern. The founding members of CDC or seditionists know that President Weah can't govern Liberia. The business community know this. The religious community know this. The international partners know this. ECOWAS is aware of poor governance and lack of respect for the rule of law. The only people who don't know are Jowian and we are Weahsians.
Okay, so here's the thing. I got that and I read the letter, read through it really quickly. You know, I think we're making a big mistake. And that mistake is that we are operating from the assumption that these people don't know. They know.
Who people?
The people who support Weah.
Oh, you know they know.
But part of it is what I call the psychology of sunk costs. They would have to now come back and say, we were wrong. So part of the challenge for Cummings and the ANC is to be able to both say to them, you were wrong, but we're not going to penalize you for being wrong. We can move in a different direction together. You see, because their wrongness is tied to their identity.
Right. And
a new government in Liberia will have to provide a new sense of identity for all Liberians.
Right. And your point of sunk costs, they got to understand what has happened cannot be recovered. The whatever this past 5 years is and the next year will be, we can't really recover that. So it's about giving people that hope that there's a new day. We are basically like starting from scratch. We need to scrap so many different things we're doing today and move in a different direction. And I think that's the message that Mr. Cummings is trying to share with people, that he elaborates and articulates every time he gets out there. Because if people have no hope, they have nothing. And that's the hope we're relying on.
Here I think is another challenge for the ANC, or a challenge to the government. Of the projects that the government has completed and is listed as its success stories, how many of those projects were accomplished with donor funding?
But what kind of project we use our own money for?
No. But Isaac, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get us to quantify, right? How pitiful this government would be without international support. International support for almost everything. So the question becomes, how long do we expect Liberia to literally be an orphan state? Okay.
At the rate it's going?
Because here's the problem with being an orphan state. Anytime there's a downturn or an international calamity, like the orphan states are the ones who say, well, you know what? we're going to have to cut those guys.
Yeah, they got to cut whatever fat they got on
Right.
them. They
And,
got to
and,
cut
if,
it
and,
off.
if you guys are stealing the money that they're sending, then it doesn't bode well for the country.
No. And you know, the point you made is just so discernible in the budget, right? You see what the recurring expenses are and what portion is giving to infrastructure projects, you know. And you just tell right there that the government is not spending the money on infrastructure stuff.
So if Samuel Twe, as finance minister, can tell us what was the government's financial output for last year, and of that financial output, how much money did the government bring in from donor nations?
Oh, it's in the budget. I mean,
okay. So we need to say how much of Liberia's support under WIA comes from the international community and how that amount has not decreased. In fact, it has probably increased as a percentage of the government revenue spent.
Josh, the portion of the budget that goes to infrastructure is probably like, let me see something here. What is it's probably at 7%
of the government's budget.
7% of the government budget probably go to infrastructure and basic services.
That's okay. It. How much of it goes? How much of it goes to salaries?
Probably the rest.
Well, because I'm sure to get salary. What do you call it? Thing? I'm sure they get salary support.
Oh, they have, the international community have been supporting our budget for salaries without question.
So of the amount of money the government spends on salaries for government workers, how much of it pays? How much of
about
what percentage?
60 to 65% on salaries. About 60
so,
to 65%.
So no. So this is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
That's 60 to 65% that they spend on salaries.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of the total salaries is it?
That's a good question, because we get some salary support.
That's what I'm saying.
They even take money, and we don't know if all those money go to salaries from the road fund, and they say they use that whatever 7 million or 10 million to put towards salary.
We need to do a deep dive and find out how sustainable is this government without international support. It is not. And anybody who wants to be president of Liberia, at least part of your pledge should be that you would reduce your financial dependence on international funding over a period of time.
And they have not provided that information. We can try to seek it and research it, but we can't survive with all the international community support at this point.
And so
because we don't have a private sector, we don't have a private sector, we don't have a way to generate funds organically. We're not able to do basically anything. And it's a step-by-step process, and you got to start heading in that direction. And this proper government has done nothing, this WIA government, to head in a direction where we can start to build the foundation where we are basically, our budget, whatever we need is what we can raise and what we can implement. We don't have to be begging. Like, it can be ribbons and trimmings and, aesthetics that the international community can bring in. But in terms of our own necessities, we have to get to the point where we can provide them ourselves. And we have not been able to do that.
Yeah, so, but I also see that in the letter, he talks about Representative George knowing the value of peace, of the peace that Liberia has. That wasn't apparent in Representative George's comments that he made the last time.
But that's
that people should be disappeared.
And that's where the stuff is just lost on, we are, because he assumes when he make those kind of ludicrous and sometimes lying statements, his people will come and support it and say, yeah, Papi Nanto, But
right,
like she's saying to the rest of the people, the business community, the international community, other people, they know, but that doesn't still mean that Mr. Cummings should not respond and hammer the point to George Weah that his response was just kind of baseless. It had no substance. It didn't address the real issues. He didn't talk about any actionable items that they will be taking.
Right. So if I were crafting Mr. Cummings' response, I would start with, in my original letter to you, these are the things that I mentioned.
Exactly. The 3 points.
Your response to me contained no address of any of those things.
Just blanket. He blanketly touched on some of them.
And as a regular citizen, I'm sure you, Mr. President, can appreciate the concerns that I'm expressing. So once again, I would like to give you the opportunity to specifically address those things.
Yep.
And just don't waste time with the rest of the noise about AC Milan and all of that nonsense. Because, in writing, they call that filler. He added that there to make the letter long, to make it longer.
I think the letter was 34 paragraphs.
That's my point. So again, Cummings' response was, I appreciate, you taking the time to respond, but your response failed to address these things that I raised. So I would like to give you, as president of the Republic of Liberia, you gotta keep, stressing that.
Oh, yeah. Your
as president of the yes. Okay. As president, I would like to give you the opportunity to once again respond to those specific items. And just keep his feet to the fire on that.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of messages here. No, and that is the idea. It has to be I think folks we has to be accountable. There's no going back and forth about it. And the good thing is he has been hiding for the longest time. Now he has come out.
Right.
Now he has to be engaged. He can't run away from the debate anymore. So hopefully whoever lettering for him will keep lettering, but he has to letter now. You say he on letter, but he got letters after his name, so he got to be writing letters now.
He is unlettered. Well, there's also Grammarly, so it's possible that he wrote this, but I doubt it seriously.
No.
Yeah, so there's that issue of the sanctions, but going back, I hope Liberians can appreciate what the Magnitsky Act is.
All right, George, just from your own perspective, we can see the dictionary meaning, we can see the restrictions on individuals, we can see the reach to the banks, and the limitations involved if somebody is sanctioned under that act. But from a governance perspective, what do you think the act means? Yes, at this point, so that individuals were sanctioned.
So let me just, this Magnitsky Act, it's not something that targets Africans or anybody, but it is from a guy named Bill Bowder, who was an American businessman doing business in Russia. And his partner, hold on, I'll tell you the guy's name. His partner, I believe, his partner's name was Magnitsky. And because of the way he was treated as a responsible businessman, this guy made it his life's work to get this act passed, not just in the United States. There is also a Magnitsky Act in the UK.
Yes, there is.
There's a Magnitsky Act across the European Union about sanctioning corrupt foreign officials.
And the guy, Magnitsky, he was the legal counsel for that guy, that
For Bill Browder, right?
Yes. And I believe they killed him. They killed him in a Russian jail, but it was not clear.
Okay, his name was Sergei Magnitsky.
Yes.
And Browder made it his life's work to get this thing passed. So it's about sanctioning corrupt foreign officials directly. And it includes a framework. Okay.
And those who abuse human rights, those human rights offenders, yes, freeze their assets, ban them from entering the country, all those kind of things. And it's important for us to realize that, like even Weah himself is saying, that's our significant partner. So if they are basically sanctioning the officials around you and the primary person in your office, and you don't even take it to understand that that is actually directed at your office, what can make Weah see anything? He doesn't understand that much. That simple thing. George, where in America, if they prosecuting the chief of staff of some government official, that they will not be prosecuting that government official too?
Well, because the way these prosecutions work is to kind of work up to the big guys. So you start at the smaller fish and you work towards the bigger fish. So undoubtedly, they will be going after. But here's the thing: it's hard for anybody to believe that this guy isn't working. That these guys are not working for Weah, McGill, and the rest of them.
I mean, look, very few people you will come across that will say, Weah hand is not in this pot. Now, Weah may act like, supposedly I heard last night, our time, early morning Liberian time, some police officers or security people stopped McGill at Tropicana, this beach hotel resort in Liberia, and took his vehicle from him. That he was still using his vehicle. So that's a possibility now, but he's not supposed to be using it. So there's just so many limitations to McGill now that.
Well, so here's one of the other things that this imposition of sanctions will do. It will create incohesion in the Weah government. It's
already there, really.
Because, there will be a lot of internal infighting, because some people will simply see it as the opportunity to get rid of McGill, period.
But in many of their minds, they have gotten rid of him. But that's part of the request.
Well, no. So the fact is that if they actually took his vehicle from him, means somebody else is going to Weah and saying, but if they are suspended, they shouldn't have use of any government resources.
Oh, we all question that people saying that.
And once they remove that veneer that you may even come back to the government, it weakens you substantially.
Yeah.
And so that is part of what is going on. You see, when Ellen was in power, I used to tell the people who were Ellen government officials, when Ellen is gone, you guys will be zero. We come back to that same question of identity. If your identity is tied to your official government position, let's say you're the Deputy Minister of Commerce. When you go to a nightclub, when you go to a social setting, everybody recognizes you, but they only recognize you because you are the Deputy Minister of Commerce.
Yep.
The minute somebody else is Deputy Minister of Commerce, he's going to get that recognition.
But you remember that story about the professor or the doctor who went to some conference?
Yes.
Where he was a guest speaker? and they had car for him. They had coffee when he reached and all the privileges. He came back to the same conference the next year. Zero.
Mhm.
Nothing like that. So it's different when you have that title, and we are a
Right.
group of people that relate to title.
But here's the thing, Isaac. Here's a real more plain explanation for it, right? There's only a finite number of free bottles of liquor that the club owner can give. Okay? He doesn't have a pension plan for ex-government officials. All right?
Yeah.
So if you have 65 total ministers and the deputies you can give free bottles to, these other 65 that are passed, they don't get a free bottle anymore. The allotment of bottles goes to the current ministers. And that's what I was saying to the Ellen folks. When these guys are gone, the free currency that you get from being minister is not going to be there anymore.
So, sometimes when you see these obvious things, you wonder the people who support it, what's driving it. It's just the personal greed. Is it? I mean, I agree. Some people can be in a corrupt government and still not be corrupt and work. There's some people who have that ability to do that, to hold their principles and do the right things. And I'm sure there are some people like that in this government. But the key players, and it's obvious from what we have seen, and it's not like the stories or the allegations that the United States government has put against McGill is strange to anybody. All of these things have been things we have been talking about for the longest time. The same for CFOS, the same for Twewe. So if we can say he hasn't been hearing these things, like you were saying, what's the initial date? It's been from inception. I mean, from the time McGill bought property cash, coming from direct poverty into government and being able to buy a whole house cash. I think even it was probably before inauguration. That tells you where the intention is, where the direction is, and that's where this government has been going since, downhill.
But the U.S. government definitely told the government of Liberia that we are placing these people under sanctions because of A, B, C, and D. They gave them something in writing. There was some correspondence.
Oh, no, I believe that because there was a sanction team that was on the ground before the announcement came out. And I'm sure they met with the president. I'm sure they discussed it with him. And he met with the U.S. ambassador after the fact. So the U.S. ambassador not just going to play basketball inside his house.
Right.
Like, there's more to that whole discussion than just, talking basketball stuff. So, in essence, I think our response is due to George Weah. It's just about what the tune is, like
I said, it just needs to hammer on those three questions. It just needs to forget all about the noise in the letter. Don't even deal with that political class, elitist, and all of that. Just answer the questions. That's all I want to do.
I agree with you that some of the nonsense should be ignored, right? Because they're just noise in the market, that the distraction that you don't have.
That's what he wants.
And deal with. No, let's come back to the issue. I told you about the sanctions. I told you about George, Solomon George. I told you about the magistrates. Let's focus on those issues. Let's talk about the key issues affecting the country. And then Mr. Cummings, in my mind, he also shares what he's thinking,
So for example, we are rights that Representative Solomon George and all opinion leaders in the CDC are fully cognizant of my publicly held position on the maintenance of the country's hard-earned peace and rule of law. Okay. His recent statement was out of order. No. if I talk before you talk, that's out of order. Okay? That's out of order. You know, people have a tendency to kind of use these words and phrases
To soften things.
to soften things.
Yes.
In your presence, this man called for a return to Liberia's past, where people were murdered by government agents. Okay? The fact that he had the audacity to do that in a comment to you publicly, and you did not publicly condemn him, there's a problem. Okay? I will go back to, I don't know if you can find, I'm sure you can find the video of the lady who was attending John McCain's campaign rally. And she started to ask a question about Obama. And she said, I don't trust him. He's a Muslim. And McCain took the mic from her right away.
That's I mean, I can find that, but that is
that is what statesmanship and leadership is about.
Right.
And he said, no, he's a man of faith. He's a good man. We just disagree on certain things. Okay? And you know, it may have lost McCain some credibility among the hardcore racist Republicans. But that's what statesmanship is about. The fact that the only condemnation we have seen from George Weah about Solomon George is actually in this letter. The only public condemnation is in this letter, says a lot. But let's extend beyond Solomon George, and let's go to Jeff Koji.
Okay,
you have it?
I think I do. Hold up.
Can you play the video or?
Yeah. Let me share it. It's no, McCain. You see, that's the difference between people. McCain is a principled man, right? McCain was not going to allow somebody to just come and smear, you know, Obama without.
Obama, right?
Yeah, I want to move it. Let me move it to its own
window.
Yes, it'll probably be better that way. So then I will share it now so people can see when somebody says stuff about a leader and you're a principled leader and you don't agree with it. That's how not a big that stuff. That's how you go about it. Okay, so here we go. You can see the screen, right, George?
Yeah.
And frankly, we're scared. We're scared of an Obama presidency. First of all, I want to be president of the United States, and obviously I do not want Mr. Obama.
No, this isn't the one, Isaac.
This is not the one?
This one was with a woman. Look for, hey, let me see if I can find the link.
You see, his own people are booing him.
If I didn't think I wouldn't be one heck of a lot better president, I wouldn't be running, okay? And that's the point. That's the point.
I got to ask you a question. I do not believe in.
That's it.
I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not.
No, man. He's a decent family man and citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about. He's not. Thank you.
He didn't even let her finish.
Right. He took the microphone from her.
He took the mic from her. And what I'm saying is the fact that we are sat there and smiled as George made those comments
And you know what? If you watch that video, George, the initial impact on his face, he didn't like it. But then when other sycophants were clapping, he started clapping himself. George Weah is a product of his environment. If George Weah is around people who are principled and want to do the right thing, George Weah will do the right thing. Inherently, he wants the
easiest way out.
Yes, he wants
the path of least resistance.
Yes, and that's what is his hindrance. As a leader, you can't be like that. You got to be able to let your immediate cycle know that this stuff, they don't align with my principles. The stuff you want to do, no, that's not how we do business here. This government is for the people, blah blah blah, and that tune should have been set from day one.
Right. So the fact that he did not make a public condemnation of this. You can even point to the attack on the people who were demonstrating, and people. What do you call the thing? People. It is rumored that the bail for those people were paid by the mayor of Monrovia.
Right.
So if that's the case, then it means that the government officials are actually sanctioning violence.
But from the beginning, we said it's been government sponsored.
We need to find out who paid their bail, because all of this is documentation. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's what key.
So you can't say your government you don't sanction violence, but you got government officials who are bailing out people who are arrested for violence.
You know, and like this guy said, why would anyone pay attention to Weah's response to Cummings when Weah has failed to dwell on the current situation brought out by Mr. Cummings?
Exactly.
Nobody has interest in his yesterday's talk. So he needs to go back for reply on issues brought about by Cummings. And that's, like you said,
so he and I are consistent.
Reiterating what the issues were, and then probably even pounding a little bit more and emphasizing further.
You need to address these.
Yes. So you engage now. You got to come back. It's not about where I was during the war. No. You know, and what career we are gave up for what they call the stuff name?
To be football ambassador.
To be a goodwill ambassador. No. Look, most of the people in it, they don't go necessarily to the people who in business or economics to be and goodwill ambassador.
But at that time, wasn't his career over?
No.
Or was he still playing?
Actually started around 1997.
Okay.
And I think his last year as an ambassador was like after he retired, because
but and it doesn't stop you from doing your job. When you have these goodwill ambassador positions, it doesn't stop you from doing your job.
But most times you do it during your spare time.
As a matter of fact, they want you to have that particular job to continue to have an impact on people.
Exactly.
So Weah tries to represent it as, oh, I had to stop playing football to do this. No, you didn't.
No, he lied. He didn't. Because I believe he was a goodwill ambassador from like 1997 all the way to like 2003 before he got into politics. Because once he got into politics, he couldn't be a goodwill ambassador again.
Right. But they would have pegged him at the height of his career and popularity.
And that's exactly because
that's the basic criteria for being a goodwill ambassador. Somebody who just has enormous name recognition.
Right, and influence.
Right.
You know? Yeah, because it was like a couple of years after his Ballon d'Or, 1995, 1997, he became a goodwill ambassador. And most of the goodwill activities that he engaged in, it was obvious. Going to Sierra Leone, coming to Liberia, it was during the time that they were not playing soccer. So for him to make, lie to the people and say that just, unnecessary. But it's not beyond we have to lie. So that happens. So yeah, I think we can probably kind of bring this to a close. I think it's clear that Weah has not responded substantively to the questions or the issues raised by Mr. Cummings.
Mhm.
I think Mr. Cummings need to come back at WIA and reiterate what he said before in the first instance, and how Mr. Wia's response, like you said, to the Solomon George thing is not adequate, to say that people know your public. So what's your private stance? If you say that's your public stance, what's your private stance? Do you have a different way of looking at this violence
But
thing?
it belies his commitment. It belies his professed commitment to peace.
Right.
When he sits with a representative who says, let's kill the people who disagree with us.
And he should have come up straight and right there, like you said, like McKean did, and said, no, Solomon, this is not what I believe in. I'm a man of peace, blah, blah, blah. But he did not do that. He definitely did not do that. And then, the sanctions, he's just trying to run away from them. But they are here, and most likely more sanctions will be coming, So he has to deal with those sanctions. He has to start to find a plan. He has to start to find alternatives. I don't know how long suspension will be, 6 months, because sanctions are 6 months. Sanctions are there for a long time. And even if McGill was supposed to come back into government, if WIA is that, I don't want to say stupid, but maybe not recognizing what the issues are, the Americans cannot deal with McGill. And there will be other countries that will not deal with McGill. And there will be many people who will not want to deal with McGill because it affects them being an American person. WIA himself is an American person. So he has to really consider what his decision is with regards to what's going on with McGill. So we look forward to whatever Mr. Cummings will come with. Let's see what some of these comments have been today. Not too many comments. So there's one here. So how about Yeke Koloba and political leader Cummings? Yeke Koloba makes statements out there, and he claims it's because of what WIA is doing. We have seen Yeke Koloba's situation be threatened before, a house broken into and stuff like that. So as much as Mr. Cummings, I believe, has publicly disapproved of what Yeke Koloba says and his reactions, because you want people to respect the presidency, as an institution, because anybody will get there eventually. Yeah, we know, and like somebody like me, I used to be on some seditions for insulting the presidency when Madam Salif was there. You got to respect that institution, but you got to be honest and truthful to the people in the positions. Because at the end of the day, if they don't validate the national confidence or the national respect of that position, they get ridiculed. And right now, today, WIA is an object of international and domestic ridicule. International, continental, and domestic ridicule. So he has to wake up. Nobody can help George WIA if he does not help himself. He has to wake up and help himself. In my mind, there's always time. You can always redeem people. You can always try to redeem yourself. But whether the people accept that or not, that is the major issue you're facing. So the issue of Yeke Koloba and Mr. Cummings has been clear. Now it's up to the institution, the ANC, if they want to take action directly against Yeke Koloba. But Yeke Koloba has been more reactive, not proactive. And it's because of the actions of people that somebody like Yeke Koloba is talking about forming opposition protection unit or whatever he call it. It's based on Thomas Faraday in Lofa organizing militants. You don't do that. Then the whole kind of militarization of the police force and using them for government purposes, you can't do that. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's about us all saying we want this country to be peaceful. We want the engagement to be based on the issues, where we differ on the issues.
And the president of the country has to have a zero tolerance
for people who go against that.
For people who go against that, even for people who speak against it.
Right, because if you speak against peace, you speak against engagement. That means you want the opposite. You're right.
Correct.
Yeah. So we'll deal with one or two questions here. Oh, this person just coming. Sila, we did touch on Madam
On the
Swakopo's
letter.
letter. You know, her biblical references, and it's finally going a circuitous route to come to the point. If it seemed like she's saying Mr. Cummings, you know, should not respond, but I think what she's trying to say is, you know, Mr. Cummings should not go to the level that Weah is probably trying to take her to. To take him to. He should respond at the level. He should stick with the issues. He should talk to the Liberian people. And I think the fact that Weah has responded, he gives Mr. Cummings a platform to be able to communicate more to Liberian people, because people want to hear what he wants to say in response to Weah. So in my mind, his response to Weah is a reminder. These are the key issues I'm talking about. These are the things that can bring instability in our country. This is the fact that happened. You have failed. Now, with me as president, this is what I would do. And I looked at, you know, asking where it may be, the preparation to get to this point, to be able to redeem a situation that Mr. Weah has destroyed, is what Mr. Cummings is about. And that's, I will not run away from saying that, Mr. Weah, you have failed. And I have the ability to bring Liberia back, to gain respectability within our sub-region, within the general region.
And one of the things I would stress on, you know, it would be different if this was, if this sanctions thing were at the beginning of Weah's administration. It's at the end, which means he's not improving.
No, he's not.
Okay, you know, so you would say something like, you know, trying to rein in corruption would be something we would have expected in the infancy of your presidency. But you've been president now for 5 years. And to have your most trusted advisors being sanctioned, they're not being sanctioned for things that they did this year. They're being sanctioned for their overall activity from the time you got into government. And if this has gone so far, you know, or this long without being noticed, what it tells me is that you don't have a clue. Because if you say you're unaware of it, it tells me you don't have a clue. So Cummings needs somebody to help him prosecute the case against Weah. And I think Weah's response is definitely a good place to start.
Okay, so George, yeah. So not to distance ourselves too much from this, but there was this issue. Supposedly, somebody had said, Sam Jackson said the IMF were praising Liberia and stuff like that. So people have to understand the folks in the IMF, the language they use is not to discourage. They are trying to encourage this government to do the right thing. In my mind, it was clear to me that they were basically saying the government has failed. Okay, you had a growth potential, you were targeting 5%. What happened? You fell short. You came in at 3.7, 3.9%. So you're not reaching your targets. Okay, they were clear in the IMF speak that whatever structural reforms they were trying to do, the government had not implemented them. They were delayed, you know. And then they basically still said that the government is challenged. It's challenged in terms of the macroeconomic stability, you know.
I'll call in Sam Jackson to come on right now. So we'll see.
You know. They even granted a waiver that the fact that the Liberian government did not observe or comply with the quantitative performance criteria. You know? So if the government failed to achieve these benchmarks and they get a little waiver, You know, for somebody to crow and say it's something successful, it just tells what they are.
Is that you or me?
So we've addressed Swakoko letter, and we agree with you, Sila. Mr. Weah has failed miserably too. In that recovery, we have 20 more years. The government will not recover. They will not help the Liberian people because Weah is an insecure individual. Weah is now going to bring competent individuals to run this government because no competent individual will be taking money from people who can't get Weah. No, Weah, you got a salary, you president. We got to do this thing the right way, you know. Oh, I remember man Johnson on one of these days, but Johnson come on fire. Let me let you know, you come on fire. So now that fire
What
can be too much.
Solo is anti we are now?
Who, George Solo?
Mm-hmm.
Or George Solo being anti we are for a long time. So this person says, Isaac, do you think your man Jawia had the political latitude to discern what Representative Salomon George said to stop him?
Okay, so here, let me respond to this person right away. Okay. Listen, you live in a country where only about 5% of the people can read. Okay? Political latitude to discern. What does that mean?
That's why I'm about to warn you, George.
In English.
So
okay?
To me, it is the political understanding rather than latitude.
Or the
Does he have that
aptitude.
intellectual political bandwidth to grasp the impact of the statement of, Salomon George? I think that's what he's asking.
Right. No, I appreciate his question. I'm just saying, when you ask these types of questions publicly, you should ask them in a way that will make sense when people, for the common man to read. One of the things they say to Americans, especially American politicians, talk like you're talking to a sixth grader. Okay? Always talk like you're speaking to a sixth grader.
But then you should take your own advice too. So
who?
You.
No, I don't use a lot of big words. I use a lot of cuss words, but sixth graders like cuss words.
Okay. So this other person has a point here. My brother, George Weah, is suffering from the population complex. But that, I don't know whether he meant popularity or population.
It's popularity.
But that, I mean, the president and folks around him believe that the popularity in the context of gullibility still the same. That means the people now, the Liberian people, are subject to his popularity and they'll just be there, for him. That's why this president doesn't want to hurt people's feelings. In his mind, when he stands up and deals with those elements around him, he will lose that popularity. But he is mistaken. This president has miserably failed in all of the policy agendas, but rather the guys in the CDC, well, I didn't even get the rest of it, went on massive something. Well, he has the point in the beginning that, George Weah is still dependent on his popularity, and maybe he should be, because to a large extent, sometimes in democracies, popularity lend themselves to numbers. And
democracy is a popularity contest.
Right. But when the people are suffering, that popularity sometimes goes out the door. And I think that's where many Liberians are today.
No.
Okay. Let's
hear you why. Let me tell you why.
All right.
Popularity is basically an appreciation for a specific talent or trait that somebody has.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. If somebody can represent that they are better at politics than Mr. Weah, that would have removed Mr. Weah's popularity as a leader. They will overcome his popularity as a football player, because that election is a popularity contest, right? where the voter is voting for a person based on how they believe that person will perform as president.
I don't think that's what our voters vote for.
Well, in order for somebody to win, that's what we're going to have to convince them.
But our
about.
voters vote because most of them, because they say they know you. Okay, so the popularity, substantive of not or not, gives that voter the opportunity to say they know you. How many of the voters have met Mr. Weir? How many of them have spoken with him? How many of them are even shaking his hand? So for our country, what's the IQ of our country? You tell me this all the time. What's the IQ?
69.
Okay, what is the average IQ you think for
in the world?
Yes, a rational person. Look it up.
I can look it up.
Right. And then what's the
Liberia's IQ is 67. I forgot. Okay.
What's the IQ of smart people? Like people who not the Mensa level, but people right below that.
Okay, so it says
75?
No, hold on. It says the average IQ in the United States is 98.
Okay, so people scoring 98, our people at 67, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's close to that 31 points differential.
Mm-hmm.
In any measurement, any scale, that's significant. So it just tells you that the mindset of the voter on the issues is way different from the mindset of the voter. So popularity in terms of substance and in terms of accomplishments is different from popularity on the political side, is different from popularity for sports. But in Liberia, the popularity for sports transfer over, it crossed over because our people cannot, the same way, like you said, somebody who works in a hospital and comes and say, I want to be Minister of Health because they work in a hospital as a janitor or as a quarter.
Conley. I mean, let's just bring Conley in there.
Let's use Conley because he went to a little trade school.
A trade school.
1 degree related to something airport-wise. Now he feels he can manage an airport.
Mm-hmm.
Even my man at the central bank, right? He was a compliance officer. So he's at the Liberian Central Bank of Liberia. So, so I don't understand the other person's point, but it distracted me. You can read it and address it afterward. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. But just to finish this, popularity is important. Knowing the person is important. But at the end of the day, what does knowing mean? What does that popularity represent?
And what I'm saying is the challenge for the opposition is to change the terms of the argument.
But it comes with civic education. It
comes
with explaining to these people
what
their rights are, what they should vote for. Look, George, look at it. When did the war start? 1989?
89.
Okay. So how many years are we from the war?
33 years.
33 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when do people become impressionable? At what age? 9, 10?
I would say, like the guy from the Pope from the Catholic Church said, if you give him a child before the age of 7,
okay, so
he can make him a Catholic for life.
So anybody who was
in addition to molesting him. I just had to throw that in there.
So all the people who are 7-year-old, right, from that point, right, to the 33 years, so that 40 years we're talking about.
They're 40 years old,
right? So anybody who 40 years and below, all they have known, basically, is the war, is the conditions of strife that they live in, that the thing has been normalized, that the thing is what it is supposed to be. No access to water, no access to light, bad roads, bad education system, everything like that. That is the population we're trying to deal with. And within that population, there's some who didn't even enter the schoolhouse. So the task of civic education it's a responsibility any well-meaning Liberians should take on themselves and understand civics, understand how they can teach people the rights, understand how they can let people understand what elections are about. What is the impact of electing, somebody simply for a bag of rice or for money at elections time? So until we can educate our people, that ignorance level will be. It's not our people are not smart. I really believe in general, if given, created, and put in the right environment, most Liberians are smart.
Well, I mean that would apply to anybody.
Right. Well, I'm just saying
That would apply to anybody. The fact. So hold on. When we talk about the IQ of the country, I don't talk about it in a way to say, oh, the people are just stupid. What I'm saying is that the government has not created a learning environment. And that's why the IQs are where they are. Okay, it's a reflection of the underperformance of the government.
Right, and I that goes back. I blame it on the governments forever. I blame it strongly on the Ellen Sirleaf government. They came in with that huge opportunity to fix the mess, to fix the education system, and they failed to do that. So it's just tough, and we are again. They like the letters, they like the credit, but they try to downplay the education system. They try to run away from educated people. They try to intimidate educated people. And that doesn't happen, if people are committed and people are convinced. So, those who have the will, those who have the strength and the fortitude, they need to start engaging other people. If everybody can just take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 persons and start to teach them a little bit of civics, a little bit about our constitution, a little bit about the responsibilities, a little bit about the social contract, and people can gradually start to build that body of knowledge among ourselves, people can make better decisions at elections.
And I believe that at the center of the bad decisions Liberians make about elections is this expectation that private people need to do the government's job.
Because they don't understand the social contract. They don't understand what's government responsibility.
Okay. What is government's responsibility? So as soon as you start having a conversation with somebody who supports the government, the first question they will ask you, what have you done for Liberia? And my response is, I'm not the government.
Yeah. No, this guy is right to a large extent, Josh. Alfred Konwa, that is about how you define popularity. But today, I think people are feeling the hunger are in sharper terms. I think people can wake up more easily now if they would only listen. And if people
we talked about in our other shows, we talked about the freedom from want. Okay. And I think part of what Konawa is talking about is what I've described as the freedom from want. In normal countries, people don't wake up every morning searching for their basic existence. When that is the focus of your life, okay?
Nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters. Okay? When you can't see beyond today, when you have to wake up in the morning and say, how am I going to eat? How am I going to feed my children today? You are looking for exactly what he calls instant gratification.
Yep.
Okay? I want to satisfy this need right now, and tomorrow I'm on the hustle again.
I tried the thing River says. I said I can give you $10 today and give you $100 next week.
Give me the $10 a day, boss.
$10 a day. Because they don't believe, the first thing they even know they will live, they don't believe you honest that you get that money. So they instant gratification.
They don't see that future that you are telling them is possible.
Right. And those are some of the challenges in terms of changing the mindset of our people. But to this question where he asked, do you think the same of the people, that some of the people have realized that they are enslaved mentally? I don't know that people are enslaved mentally. I just don't think that democratic principles or the understanding of nation building and country and development, at the level where they really understand who's hindering development and who's not.
And as far as the court decision in America, Melvin, I was just say this about that. This is the dog that caught the car. Okay, and let me try to explain to you guys what that whole phrase means. You know the dogs in Africa or anywhere that chase the car, barking at the car, and it's like, if you catch the car, what are you going to do?
Yep.
Republicans had hung abortion out there as their boogeyman. You understand? It was a vote getter. And most people were willing to ignore all of the other Republican policies because they didn't think this thing was possible anyway. I know they would never ban abortion, but I like the other things that they would do. And Republicans had always intended for it to be the boogeyman. But everybody didn't get that memo. So now that the Supreme Court has passed that decision, everybody is willing to say, or not everybody, the majority of Americans are now willing to say, wait a minute. This is more important than all the other stuff I want you to do. So it's not about them believing they were enslaved. They just never thought it was actually possible that it would happen. Even the Republicans who were pushing it, they were like, as long as we have that boogeyman out there, we can raise money. All right, Isaac.
All right, I think we've done a great job today. Chris, what's up, brother? I hope everything is fine. Again, we appreciate all those who have been listening. We are still working on trying to get on the radio in Liberia. Hopefully, it will materialize soon. That more people can get to hear what we have to say and also get to hear some of your comments as well. We look forward to that happening probably by mid-September. I'm keeping my finger crossed on that we can have a show on Radio in Liberia. George will discuss some of the modalities around that soon, hopefully.
Okay.
Okay, so you share my thought. I don't believe they are mentally enslaved, and well, I don't know if we haven't been able to define ourselves. We have a lot of work to do, Alfred. Hopefully, we'll start to do those things to move our country forward. The responsibility really is on every Liberian, and primarily those who are patriotic, because those who don't care already, they're on the other side. They're just there to contaminate, confuse, and make sure that what their private agenda is, that most personal to them, is what's on the national table, as opposed to the real issues, the real competent leaders that we can put into place to lead our country in the right direction. So all of us need to work towards it. Any parting words, George?
We're good.
Wonderful.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Peace, folks. Next week.